Okay, so we are at the stage. We've planned out our app. We've clenched a deal with our programmers. We've hired our programmers. So really, that's kind of the boring stuff out the way, and now things start to get a lot more exciting and a lot more interesting, and things are going to start moving and progressing. And as you see your project come together, it's really good feeling and an exciting feeling to see it all start happening. So once you've clinched the deal, now the programmers will probably ask you about this anyway, but we know what to do, and I'm going to give you a few kind of tips and things to think about. We need two things at this point. We're going to need a Shopify partners account. So we'll push that to one side for a minute. I'll cover that in the next video because I'll show you inside an account and the things you can do and stuff like that. The Shopify partners account is kind of where you're at, where you can access your app. It's where the programmers will be developing your app, and there's a few other things that I'll point out to you that you can do as well that will be helpful. So first of all is hosting and a domain name. So of course you need a domain name and you need hosting. So if you're completely unfamiliar with everything, web hosting is somewhere where you would store files for your website or whatever. So the same thing is with software or a Shopify app. If you're making a piece of software, you need to keep those files and host it somewhere. And if you're making a Shopify app, it's the same thing applies for that. So all Shopify apps are hosted on the creator's hosting account. So you may already have hosting. You may be familiar with hosting. You could have a regular hosting account. You could have your own private server. And the other option is Amazon servers. So I'm going to talk a little bit about why you might want an Amazon server and the pros and cons of both different ways of doing it. So if you've already got web hosting and you want to use that, that's absolutely fine. Otherwise, I'd recommend, if you're going for regular hosting, to use Namecheap. And the thing is with the hosting, which one you want to choose will depend on what type of app your app is. So I'll give you an example. We made an app called the Quick Sales Pages, and what that app did was allow a Shopify user to create a long sales page copy. So it was based on ClickFunnels template that we used and tried and tested that converted really well. But ClickFunnels is expensive, and you've got to integrate it and everything, so it's a little bit tricky. So we made an app, so it made it really easy for people to use, so you could build these high converting pages. So all of those pages are actually hosted on our server, and on all those pages there's lots of rows, and there's lots of places where the user can put images, and there's testimonial images and stuff like that. So there's tons of images and tons of pages. Now the problem is, if we had that on a regular server, is we got a private server, and if, say for instance, we have 20 big hitters using that app, and then 200 other users using the app that are smaller guys, those big hitters, if all of a sudden they throw up 100 pages each and they start driving massive amounts of traffic to those pages, we've got the storage of all the images, and we've got the bandwidth of people hitting those pages, and it's showing those images as well. So the problem is with having, say, a Namecheap server and a set allowance for that, is we could either crash the server temporarily because we could max out the bandwidth, or we could fill the server up with people using it. And it's not just a case of calling Namecheap and saying, can you give us a bit more space? It's a case of moving everything to a bigger server, so it's kind of static in that way. So with an Amazon server or an AWS server, then what will happen is that it's kind of on demand. So as the users and the bandwidth and everything is used, the space and the allowance will expand and contract. So if we get some big hitters on there, and it suddenly gets a ton of traffic, we haven't got to worry about the server crashing and having a ton of angry customers and people never using your app because it all crashed when it got some traffic. So that type of an app, if you're hosting a lot of stuff and traffic's going to be hitting your server for that, then I would highly recommend you go with an Amazon server. Now you will be paying more money for it, but you will have a much smoother ride and it'll be much easier. So just factor that into the price of your app. But the other thing is, with a Namecheap server, on a regular server, then that's much easier for you to access and do stuff on that server. So it's much more user friendly on the Namecheap one, but you are limited. Now I've got another app called Price Creeper, which monitors Facebook ad spends, and it gently increases prices on products on the store. Now that kind of an app would be absolutely fine on a Namecheap server, because it's not going to be getting all that traffic. It's only going to be the users that are using it, and they're just going to be logging in. So, you know, quite comfortably on a regular server, we could accommodate tons and tons of users on there easily, no problem. So you need to have a think about what type of app your app is going to be, and is it going to need to have lots of expansion. Also, if you're getting into this and you're going to be pushing out lots of apps, you know, and it's going to be something that you're going to do, or lots of different softwares, you might want to go with the Amazon server as well, just so that you can, every time you do a new app or a new piece of software, you just throw it onto the Amazon server. So have a think about that. If you're unsure, then put it in the Facebook group and ask a question. I'll have a look at it if I'm around, and we can quickly work out whether or not the Amazon server is right for you. And again, you're going to need a domain name. I recommend Namecheap. I always use Namecheap. It's entirely up to you. If you've already got hosting and whatever, you're comfortable with a certain hosting company, go for those. So you're going to need a domain name and hosting. So that's two completely essential things that you're going to have to get set up. You know, try and go for the domain name as close to the name as your product as humanly possible. Sometimes that's not always the case. You might need to change the name of it, but if you can, go for it. Try and get .com if you can, and it's pretty straightforward and pretty simple. I'm not going to do any videos on how to buy a domain name and hosting, but I might put some text below this video, different kind of hosting packages you can get. And the link to Amazon as well. It's really easy to set up an Amazon server. All you need to do is add an email and a username, put in your credit card details straight away, and then hand those details over to the programmers and they will take care of the rest. Yeah, and one other thing, once you got those login details and everything, go to the folder that we made, wherever you kept that folder with all your files, make another subfolder, make a text document, and call that login details. So as we move through this process, all your login details and everything are going to be neatly in a folder, so we don't get out of control. We can find stuff. You can make a folder in there as well with the estimation and the milestones that the programmers gave you. Put that in another subfolder. Keep everything neat and tidy and clean, so that you can quickly and easily find everything. Okay, so make sure you keep it tidy and keep it clean from the start. Okay guys, so in the next video we'll take a look at the partners account, which is the second thing you need for this to get started. So one other thing I just want to add on to that as well at this point is, when the programmers begin developing your app and stuff, if you're using regular hosting, just let them know that we're going to be installing WordPress and you want WordPress on the main root folder. So let them know that when they're developing the app, to put the app in a subfolder as well, okay? Because that's going to scupper us up a little bit further down the line. We're going to be taking a look at WordPress and what pages and stuff we're going to be installing. But basically, you know, it's going to be your domain /sales, your domain /training. If you don't let them know that, then they're going to go ahead and start developing the app in the main folder. Then when you create pages within WordPress, it's going to be your domain / some, you know, subfolder / page. So it's going to make it harder for people to find your pages for marketing and stuff like that. So just let them know that when they start developing the app, to use a subfolder. Usually it would be app, so it would be your domain / app. And that's where all the files for the app are actually stored. So I just wanted to point that out and let you know right now. Let the programmers know to develop the app in a subfolder, because you're going to be installing WordPress. Okay, thanks guys. Bye for now.